Here we go, episode 22 of the No Good Takes podcast. Giuseppe Oliveri, Jeremy Horowitz saying hello from wherever you may be watching, and we have plenty of news to talk about. It is August 26th. School is right around the corner, at least for me. Jeremy gets to enjoy the life of adulthood with still looking at jobs. How's that going, Jeremy? That's got to be fun.
It's going. Tough
Sucks.
field to get into. Yeah,
It
it's
sucks.
horrible. It's terrible. Tough field to get into. I've been recently getting a lot of emails back. It's all no's, but I'd rather get that than get nothing, which I got a lot early on in the summer. So I think we're making strides.
Emails back are good. I would
Yeah.
love for the emails back. I had to check a lot of internships over the
hmm
summer to see if I got in or if they were going to respond to me. And all I saw on the application was no longer considered, denied. Thanks for
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah. It's a tough field to get into, but like all these entry level jobs, they want 3 to 5 years of experience, which makes no sense. I mean, it's an entry level job, so yeah, it's more annoying and tedious than anything.
Well, speaking of people who no longer have jobs right now, we'll start with Tommy DeVito. And it sucks. As a Giants fan, it really does suck for Tommy DeVito to be gone and he's the one who gets waived. I think we knew it was going to come. There was a world where maybe you traded Jameis Winston and DeVito stays the backup for next year, but it just never really pointed to that. And look, I'm going to be the first to say it. It's sad. And I am sitting here on August 26th, and I am legitimately upset. Not at the Giants, just I feel sadness in my body that the Giants' fourth string quarterback has been cut. I mean, did you see the graphic for the preseason game, the last week of preseason? Tommy DeVito led the Giants in 2023 with 8 passing touchdowns. Dark
Wow.
days, man. And he led it, and he was the tiny glimmer of light in that dark period, aka the Daniel Jones era. But it sucks to really see him go. He wasn't a great quarterback by any means, but he was fun. He was exactly what the Giants were looking for in a lifeless, emotionless, identityless team. And look, I think he'll be a solid backup. He knew Dable's offense. He was able to run it well, but at the end of the day, you just had 3 better quarterbacks on the table and you couldn't keep all 4.
Yeah, we talked about it on Friday night too at your house. It was us two and James talking about it, and we said if anything, like they would move him like in a
Yeah.
trade. Definitely said I like DeVito, and I do think he has talent. Granted, he wasn't going to start over Russell Wilson, and he wasn't their guy. I mean, they just drafted Dart. But yeah, it is a little surprising to see them release him. He's definitely going to have a job. He'll be picked up by somebody. I don't know off the top of my head what teams need a backup quarterback, but he will be in another NFL jersey probably by next week. He has talent, and like you said, he's a very serviceable backup. He can beat with his legs, and he's got a decent arm too. He's definitely a somber day for Giants fans worldwide.
It was just nice. He was the Jersey kid. He came in. He gave you the whole Tommy Cutlet stick. He had his agent on the sidelines who looked like he had a body in his trunk. And it was nice because what you had before that was the emotionless Daniel Jones. The guy was wet cardboard walking around. And you had, even before that, it was Jake Fromm and that kind of scenario where you have Joe Judge running QB sneaks on your own goal line on 3rd and 9. And all those years piled up of just boring and frustrating football, and Tommy DeVito leads the Giants on Monday Night Football against the Green Bay Packers, who were looking for a playoff spot at the time. The Giants had no business winning that game, and DeVito goes on that game-winning drive, and he gave you that glimmer of hope. And he was the quarterback who, at the time, you're watching like, holy crap, did we have our guy? Did we find like a Brady-esque gem in the last round of the draft? And obviously you didn't, and that was a huge stretch to even think about. But it's not that I'm sad the Giants are losing a good quarterback. At the very least, you're losing a mediocre backup. But in terms of what he did for Giants fans emotionally, and he gave you something to watch, it hurts. It definitely hurts. It's the right move. It's business. It happens. But look, I'm not going to sit here and hang my head when the Giants have their rookie quarterback who balled out in the preseason. And yeah, you still have an insanely fun quarterback room with Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson. So it's not the end of the world. It was going to happen. And one more thing, and then I'm done on this little rant. Were you ever going to see Tommy DeVito play again. Unless, knock on wood, all three Giants quarterbacks got hurt. He was just never going to come in again. So I rest my case. Sucks for the vibes, but a business decision, fine with it. Whatever. That's it. I thought you were going to have something else to say about that.
Nah, I'm good.
That's it.
I mean, like you said, he's nothing more than a vibes guy, and he looks cool on the sideline with his agent in a colorful suit. He was cool. Don't get me wrong, but
nowhere to go.
he
Nowhere
knew
to
the
go.
spread.
Hey, maybe the Jets could be interested in a backup quarterback. Maybe he could be reunited with Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, I think Tyrod's ready to go week 1, but not like who knows? He's old. We got Brady Cook. He's cool.
There you go. I mean, dude,
like
look.
Brady Cook.
I know you're high on Justin Fields, but he did not have a great preseason.
No, he didn't. I mean, I was sold on the first drive. I thought that's how every drive was going to look. No, he didn't. But I mean, I think a lot of it, new system. And again, like besides Garrett, there's really no one else to throw the ball to receiving wise. Like you can check it down to Brees, you can check it down to Allen. But I think like his numbers are definitely they look worse because of the drops. That's maybe a little bit of an excuse for Fields. But like I don't look too deep into the preseason or into training camp because I mean at the end of the day, like none of that necessarily carries over or means that much when it comes to week 1, first couple drives of the year. Like, and again, I'm not expecting them to go be world beaters and beat up on teams like the Chiefs and the Bills and go run the table and make a deep playoff run. Like I just want them to be competitive. Like Fields said he said it in an interview. I think he doubled down on a couple times and he said, "Listen, we're fine taking like 8-yard plays every time." And if that's what the offense is going to look like they're going to have these long 10 to 15 play drives and
to hold the ball. That's what winning teams do. The Eagles dominated in possession last year.
If they can control time of possession, like they're going to be competitive in games. And to be honest with you, that's really all I want. I'm not expecting them to go out and win, 11, 12, 13 games. I think they're going to be anywhere from like a 5 to 7 win team. And I'd be happy with that because like you bring in a new regime with Glenn and Moogie, you bring a new quarterback in Fields, you're trying to build up, the offensive line by drafting Membu, and they're continuing to revamp the D-line, which I love the moves they're making. Like, but for the first time in a very, very long time, feels like the Jets have direction. And I feel like the Jets and the Giants are doing very well, at least behind the scenes in the past, 4 to 6 months, I'd say. Like the moves they're making make sense. They're not just doing things for the sake of doing them.
Yeah, you're right. They're moving forward, finally. Yeah. And I usually don't look into preseason quarterbacks either and all that play. But I'm already a guy who is low on Justin Fields. I always was. And I just wanted to see, what he had. And I haven't seen anything yet. But again, week 1 is a whole lot different than preseason. You're in a whole new go mode. I'm sure it'll come around. Okay.
The question about Justin Fields are, sorry, they're definitely, they're big. I'm not going to, he hasn't shown it.
Huge.
He was 4-2 last year with the Steelers and they got benched.
But I know he got benched, and that was his job to lose, and he wasn't playing terrible football, and I think when Russell Wilson was back, it was always going to be his job no matter what, but my whole thing was you had 6 weeks to prove that you were the guy, and again, 4-2 as a Steelers quarterback, it doesn't say a whole lot for me because that defense just wins you games. Right. That defense steals games year after year after year. And a record for a quarterback, unless you're a world-beating guy, the last one to do it was Ben Roethlisberger. Ever since then, you haven't had a guy at the quarterback position you're confident in. But I don't dive too deep into that. His numbers were good. They weren't great. Russell Wilson, same thing. His numbers were good. They weren't great. And it was just 2 quarterbacks who didn't really push the ball enough. Because the Steelers, they were a playoff team. They had a quarterback come in expected to make the playoffs. And I think that when Justin Fields just wasn't playing that quarterback-esque level, you go with the veteran, you go with the guy who at least, has been there before. And he didn't do great, but again, got you to the playoffs.
Another quarterback that was 4-2 and got benched in 2022?
Who was this?
Zach Wilson.
Oh, Zach, miss you. Is that the year he said that was that the year that he said he didn't think that the offense was losing the games? They asked if the offense did enough.
After the Patriots lost, when they lost like 9-3.
Yeah.
I think so. I think so. That was they lost on a walk-off punt return.
Oh, man,
Yeah,
dark
I think that
times.
was that year. Yeah.
Dark, dark days. All right. Now we'll get moving on to the baseball conversations. And I want to start with the Mets because Mets have been in this historic free fall since the middle of June, and they're slowly but surely picking up the pieces. They had a good series in Atlanta. They had a very, very dominant win against the Phillies before. And they won a Kodai Senga start, which is hard to believe. And the bats really came alive. But Mark Vientos is where I want to start because Vientos, this guy has just turned it on all of a sudden. And the Mets need that because Francisco Alvarez was the young bat who turned it on, and he went down with the injury. And now the bottom of this lineup, the last couple of games, are coming alive. And that was the Mets' recipe for success when they were winning. And that mid-stretch of the year when they were slowly getting out of that June swoon and before they fell back into that big hole just summer swoon, the bottom of the lineup was hitting. And with Mark Vientos, who came in and he was going to be your two-hitter at the beginning of the year, that didn't work out. It's a new role. He turns over the lineup to the bottom half. If he's your five-hitter, or if Jeff McNeil is, whoever it is, he turns over your lineup to the bottom half of the guys, and you need a strong start with that because you'll have 1 through 4 on somewhat. And he has just really become a brand new hitter, and he looks like 2024 Mark Vientos.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, I was in Hershey this weekend, so I wasn't able to watch much baseball. But I've heard on Twitter and in the group chats about Mark Vientos and how he's kind of resurging himself into 2024 form. And yeah, that's exactly what the Mets need. Obviously, with Alvarez down, they need a young guy to not necessarily carry the load offensively, but to be a spark plug in that lineup because you pretty much know what you're getting in Soto, Lindor, and Alonso. That you need a young guy to really spark that lineup and get them going. Like this is a team who we saw last year. They fed off, the young guys and fed off their energy. So I think this is a perfect time for Vientos and the Mets to get hot. Roll right into the playoffs. We're in late August. You roll into September. Just keep the ball rolling, let the dominoes fall. And if Vientos and Alvarez, when he comes back, if they can get hot and stay hot, this Mets team becomes dangerous all of a sudden.
And look, I'm just going to go out there and make my bold prediction. If and when Francisco Alvarez comes back and he's hitting anything like he was hitting before we got injured since his call-up, and Mark Vientos continues this role, and you know what you get from your top guys. When they're on, they are on. And Jeff McNeil has been a very reliable bat for you. The Mets can have the best lineup in baseball. The potential is there. If Vientos and Alvarez hit like they were expected to in the beginning of the year, Soto keeps on taking his walks. You have Lindor, Alonso. You know what you get out of them when they are on. You're going to have the best 1 through 9 in baseball. I'm confident in that. I think they can go toe-to-toe with the Padres, the Dodgers lineup. I don't know about the pitching. I'm not saying best team in baseball. Don't get my words minced here. But this has the potential. If everybody's healthy and if they are all clicking like you expected them to do in the beginning of the year, the Mets will have the best lineup in baseball.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily something that is completely crazy to say. I mean, for them on like the Mets on paper, that lineup is definitely very scary. Them actually putting it together is a different thing. We haven't necessarily seen it that often this year. I think you do need Alvarez back and playing at least somewhat like he was before he got hurt for that to, come into fruition. But listen, the Mets have the names. They have the talent, obviously. And if you have guys like Jeff McNeil coming around and helping you out in clutch spots and, even Vientos now, as he was ice cold pretty much up until, August 22nd. Like if these guys come around and they hit and they continue to hit into the postseason, they're gonna, they are poised for another run. Like you said, the question mark is the pitching. But if your starters can give you 5 innings in the playoffs, you'll be okay because that bullpen is very strong. The only issue is, are they going to give you the length that you need?
And that's a huge thing with the Mets. And we'll talk about rumors of Jonah Tong and Brendan Sproat in a little bit. Because at least with Sproat right now, they played around with his starts a little bit. He got taken out early in one of his starts, and he pitched the day early. And the big rumor of him is they were going to have him come out of the bullpen for the playoffs if you do call him up. But my whole thing is now, and Jonah Tong's name has been really thrown around seriously. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him get called up late in the year if he has a really good starts in AAA, which he's been doing since being called up. But look, Kodai Senga went 4+ innings again. He couldn't get an out in the 5th inning. If a player or a pitcher is moved to the bullpen, if, Tong comes up and he's got to come out of that rotation, it becomes who are you leaving out? Is it going to be Clay Holmes or Kodai Senga? For the longest time, I was saying, okay, Clay Holmes hit his pitch limit, and the smart answer still is Clay Holmes. But Kodai Senga, since coming back from his injury, looks terrible. He gets deep in the counts. He walks the world. He lets things hang. And I just don't see the Mets, at least not sitting down having a serious conversation. If Jonah Tong is up in your rotation come playoff time, where do you sit on Kodai Senga? Because I do not trust him to come out in any game in the playoffs and give me 4 solid innings. I just don't. And that's an issue with the Mets, and that's an issue with Clay Holmes and Kodai Senga, who you're going to take out. Rotation sucks. You need the young guys to get up, and maybe they'll be good, but right now they suck. It's plain and simple.
Yeah, and it's a tough line to walk right now, because whether you go with Holmes, like you said, he's at his pitch limit. It's the most innings ever thrown in his career, or you go with Senga, who's honestly been horrible all season. So the way I view Senga, he's like a human white flag. Like, he's in the game, and like you're kind of just like punting that game away unless you put up, 7+ runs. I think Clay Holmes has very good stuff. I think you can use him in like either an opener role, or you can use him in like a middle relief role, because he has good stuff. And we saw the Yankees do that last year in the playoffs with him. And Holmes was really good in that role, in like the 5th, 6th inning. He would come in and he would pretty just shut down the other offense, because he's a guy, at least, I mean, I haven't watched much Clay Holmes this year, but when I watched him with the Yankees, he was a guy who pitched to contact and got a lot of weak contact. You can use that in the middle innings. It's when you get late in the game, when you don't want contact, when you don't want any, swinging bunts or weak ground balls. So I think I personally would rather go with Holmes over Senga, just because, like you said, Senga has looked so bad since he came back from injury. Like you said, he can't put guys away. He's deep into counts and he walks everyone.
Yeah, and Clay Holmes, again, his last start out, he went 6 1/3 in Atlanta. That was his second longest outing of the year. He went 7 earlier back in June or May. It was one of the 2 months. But yeah, he has great stuff. And now the conversation too, Reed Garrett hits the 15-day IL with the elbow inflammation, and he's been used like a workhorse. Because again, the starters couldn't go deep, and Reed Garrett was called on the most out of anybody in that bullpen. And you don't know if you're going to get him back now for the rest of the year. And if the postseason comes around and the Mets are in it, you don't know if you'll have him either. So Clay Holmes, to me, probably is the smarter choice to go to the bullpen. He's more reliable. If guys like Kodai Senga get into trouble, I am much more confident in Holmes coming in to relieve Senga than Senga coming in to relieve Holmes. Mm-hmm. So I do like the idea of Clay Holmes to the bullpen. He's home. He knows it. That's his, quote unquote home. No pun intended there. And he's just the innings limit. When is he going to hit that big wall? I didn't think he would get past the 6th inning for the rest of the season. And He did it against Atlanta. And, he was really dominant in that game. I think he let up the 1 run before leaving. But I don't know. It's tough. The Mets put themselves in a spot, back to Stearns in the beginning of the year. Everything for me ties back to David Stearns. And I compare it to Brian Cashman with Anthony Volpe. What was the backup plan when the guy who hasn't pitched over 100 innings ever in his career is going to go and eclipse that by the midseason mark? What do you do when Kodai Senga, who is injury prone, and you don't even know if you're going to get him for the full season? Frankie Montas was a question mark. Sean Manaea was injured to start the season. What were your backup plans? If it was the young guys, it better work out now, because I'm going to tell you, Jeremy, there's 2 Giuseppes in this. The first Giuseppe, if you told me that they would have a nice wild card spot right now by 2.5 games in the beginning of the season, I'd say, yeah, that's probably where I expected the Mets to be. But if you tell who the hell is calling, it's Crockett. Who the hell is Crockett? Shut up. But if you tell the other Giuseppe that the Mets, who were 21 games over 500 and had a 5.5 game lead on the Phillies, are now just 2.5 games up on the Reds for that last wild card spot, I'd ask what the hell happened in the middle of the season. And my answer, David Stearns never had a backup plan. That's my answer for him.
Yeah, but that's the way it looks. It looks like the plan was to just outscore your problems and get to the bullpen, because, again, the bullpen is very strong. But, I don't think they were banking on Holmes to turn into some, lengthy starter. They obviously knew what they were getting into with him. I don't think, the whole Montas move was a good move at all. He's a guy who hasn't been good probably since like 2016. But I don't know how serious the Mania injury was coming into the year. I think they were probably banking on getting him back maybe a little earlier and him being a little bit better than he has been. Um, it's just tough because like on paper, again, they looked so good, and when you bring them out to the field, it's a completely different team. It felt like, at least for majority of the season. But as you know, like in the playoffs, pitching and defense is what is going to win you games.
Yeah.
If and when the Mets clinch a playoff berth, they get there, and their offense could put up so as many runs as they want in it's a 5 or 7 game series. But when the offense goes cold and the pitching can't hold guys on, and they walk guys, and they give up a lot of weak contact, and the ball goes into no man's land, like you're just gonna get dinked and dunked to death. And that is honestly the worst way to lose a baseball game. That feels worse than just giving up 25 homers a game.
Yeah, and with the Mets now, the little positive news in their pitching, their bullpen last night did really, really good. And that was something that you were just waiting on to happen. It took a village last night because Kodai Senga only went 4 innings with 3 earned runs, 3 walks. It was a mess for Kodai Senga, but Jose Castillo came in. He did good. Tyler Rogers has been suspect to the hits all season. He did great. Brooks Raley is I think, the perfect complement to the premier lefty of Gregory Soto. And then Ryan Helsley, who has been a total mess since coming over to the Mets, had a very, very, very good appearance. He had the 1 strikeout. Stanek shut the door. The bullpen was nearly perfect. I think Stanek walked the guy in the 9th inning, but out of that, the bullpen was perfect. And they were perfect after the Phillies delayed the game by 20 minutes because the Mets had a couple of microphones out in center field that they've had up since 2017. And they want to complain about it in the 3rd or 4th inning when Alec Bohm hits into a double play saying, oh, look, it's in my view. That is in the view of the ball I can't hit. After the Phillies already scored 3 runs. And now you want to complain about it because he hit into a double play. 20-minute delayed game. You take it down. Okay, so now the Phillies should be able to hit. They didn't get 1 freaking hit the rest of the way. That's pathetic. And I really try to hide my hatred for the Phillies. I try to not be a homer at times, but that's ridiculous. This isn't your playoff game. This is the Mets playoff game. They're 6 games back of the Phillies going into that game 7 games back. They're 7 back going against the Phillies last night. The Reds are on their ass. They've been on their ass since June. And the Phillies want to go and complain because now it's 3-3 and you went into a double play. And it's not the microphone's fault. And guess what? Thank you, Phillies, for taking that down. You know why, Jeremy? Because the Mets put up 10 more damn runs after that. Thank you. Thank you. Because now the Mets put up the runs, and you didn't get another hit the rest of the way.
So I'm telling you, like,
pathetic.
The NL East, it's crazy because, like, the Phillies, they cannot beat the Mets. The Mets usually can't beat the Braves. I know this year's kind of an outlier for that. And the Braves can't beat the Phillies. Like, it's so weird how those 3 teams kind of just, like, intertwine. But I didn't know that. Like, I haven't really watched much baseball, let alone Mets baseball recently. But it's funny because that's not like you hear stories about that all the time when one team complains about whether, like, in this case, whether it be like a microphone, or in other cases it's like the backdrop, or a fan or something, and then it just comes back and bites them in the ass. There's no better feeling than being on the other side of that and watching your team win.
There was no other way to put it than pathetic. I thought that them complaining about
stupid.
that, it was pathetic. And how many times have the Phillies come to Citi Field and they went back and they checked the games and they were always there? The NLDS, they were always there. I mean, the Phillies post-game show. And, the city of Philadelphia, those are homers. They'll sit there and they'll, chew the Phillies' ear off about how great they are. They went back and they said that was embarrassing of the Phillies to go and complain about that. And I hate to sit here and rip the Phillies like this because, I mean, I love to do it. But in a non-biased standpoint, I don't want to sit here and rip the Phillies, but it's ridiculous. And the fact that you didn't get 1 single hit as a team after that makes it even funnier. It was never the microphone. Shut the hell up about the microphone. Play ball.
What is it, just microphones like pick up like ambient sound for the broadcast or something?
I guess so. Gary, Keith, and Ron, they were looking at it. They had no idea what it was. But it's like these, it looked like these big white megaphones, and they were on the left side of the batter's eye and the right side of the batter's eye. They weren't even in the middle. They were
Right.
closer to the stands than they were to the actual batter's eye itself.
Gotcha.
And man, they sat there and they complained. I think it's stupid. And the Phillies now 0-8 in their last 8 games in Citi Field. I'm sure that's going to change the series, but it really is, again, Jeremy, incredible. You nailed it on the head. That teams, it's a circle of sucking in the NL East with the Braves, Mets, and Phillies. Everybody loses to each other. And the Phillies are still, in my opinion, light years better than the Mets this season. Again, ever since the summer started. And
the worst thing for the Phillies would be to see the Mets in the playoffs, because it would be this, and I think it would really be a repeat of last year.
Yeah, I agree. I really do. The Mets play the Phillies well. You know, there's teams that play teams well. You know, the Braves play the Mets well. The Marlins play the Marlins play the Mets well. And Mets just play the Phillies very, very well. And it's just one of those things. They know it. They know the scouting report. It's a free swinging team. Even though last night it wasn't a lot of that. It was a lot of taking against Senga. But after Senga came out, the Phillies started swinging out of their shoes again. And it felt like that Phillies team that lost in the NLDS last year, that they just swung at everything. And that's the biggest flaw of the Phillies. They don't take, they don't walk. They'll mash, but they'll strike out a whole lot and they'll leave guys on. And they will leave big runs, ducks on that pond all the time. What else with the Mets here? Microphones, ridiculous. Alvarez, I unexpected return. Talked about that. We talked about the Mets. Last thing here, not even a Mets-related thing. I don't know if you saw this. Bryce Harper he debuted his rival cleats and rival gloves. And this is stupid to me. Bryce Harper, you know, it's rivalry week. So I'm sure he has it for the Braves and everybody else in the NL East. And I guess the Dodgers, if they're a rivalry, I don't know. But he wore black, orange, and blue cleats. And he wore orange and blue batting gloves for the rivalry game. It says rivals colors. Maybe you can explain this to me. Why are you wearing your rival's colors?
Yeah,
that
that's
makes
so
no
dumb.
sense.
I'm looking at him right now. That makes no sense. There is no way to like justify that. I guess you're trying to like get in their head by wearing their colors. Like I know a lot of corners do that in the NFL. Like there's corner, like say, you know, they're playing the Vikings, they wear like purple and yellow mouth guards and just let them dangle. But I've never seen anything like that, especially on a baseball field. That is just asinine. It's dumb.
I mean, it's your rival's colors.
Yeah.
And at least for the Mets, it's a big series for the Mets. And for the Phillies right now, it's not. But really, like, that's stupid. It's like that's the equivalent of Francisco Lindor, who wears the Mr. Met headband now, like coming out with a Philly Fanatic headband on.
Yeah.
I don't get that. It doesn't make any sense. That was stupid. And I like Bryce Harper. Like, I am really a big Bryce Harper fan. I don't understand that psychology philosophy at all.
Yeah, I don't know if that's like an intimidation tactic, because like even when I know the Mets do it, I'm sure other teams in the league do it, but just because we're on the Mets topic, like when we go to Mets games and the other team makes a pitching change and the lights go down, everyone like takes their phone out. Like if I'm the reliever coming out of the bullpen, like I am enjoying that. Like
you like that. It's a show.
Me more like ready to go. If I'm, you know, Pete Alonso and I'm looking at Bryce Harper's cleats and his batting gloves, like I'm going back to dugout and say, "No, let's go. Let's go beat these guys. You know, let's get on their ass for 9 innings and let's show them like they're not allowed to wear those colors." Like that is it's just stupidity in my opinion.
There's one team where that works for, where they do that whole light show, the Braves, when they do the chop.
Yeah.
When the pitcher gets taken out, because one, they do it as the pitcher is getting taken out, not when the pitcher's coming out to the mound.
Yeah.
Two, it's like the Braves trademark. I mean, obviously the Seminoles have it, the Chiefs have it, but that chop is really the Braves, in my opinion. And it's frustrating as a pitcher to get taken out. I've watched plenty of Mets games where the Mets are getting shelled in a must-win game and they start the chop and the Mets pitcher is leaving after 3 innings of just absolute disaster baseball. It's annoying. That's the only place it works for me. Okay, Let's get on to the Yankees. Yankees big win. Cam Schlittler, big performance again. But I want to start with Volpe getting benched again. What do you think about that? I think it's the right move. I think
Yeah,
finally you have a shortstop who you can play there, and Volpe isn't guaranteed a spot anymore. Jose Caballero, I said it when they traded for him. This is going to be one of the most important moves for the Yankees at the deadline. Not for what you get, but it's addition by subtraction because you
yeah.
don't need to start Volpe every day.
He like there is no way to justify playing Anthony Volpe. We've been saying this since like June. I forget. It was I think Thursday night's broadcast. They were on Fox, and it was Smolton Davis on the call, and they said Volpe is like the third worst. He has the third worst on base percentage in the MLB. That is absolutely insane that he still gets all this run. But a lot of that, like you keep bringing up, is because there is no backup plan. Now with Caballero, Boone said he's like a 10th man in a way. In my opinion, he's got to be like your everyday shortstop at this point. They continue to back Volpe. They continue to say, he's our guy. I saw a TikTok probably maybe 10 to 15 minutes before we went on the show, and some guy was talking about, the Yankees bench Volpe to the past 2 games. They win the past 2 games. Yes, obviously that's the big talk, but he's not the reason like they've been losing. He's not like the only reason. It's because the Yankees' recipe for success is home runs. They don't win when they don't homer. Look at the series against Boston. They homer on Sunday night, they win. They homer last night, they win. They hit 9 homers against Tampa, they win. When they don't homer, they do not win. And it's been this way since 2017, 2018. It's not winning baseball. And regardless if Anthony Volpe is in the lineup or not, everyone in that lineup is just a DH, in my opinion. They're all trying to just jack the ball. Like, this is an every week thing we talk about. Everyone in that Yankees lineup is a designated hitter. They don't care about defense. They don't care about base running. They don't care about anything but hitting homers. And that is not a way to win baseball games and to win World Series championships.
And it's been a mess. And them being DHs, that's a perfect way to put it. Because when you think about their defense again, especially against Boston, which was a total mess. Goldschmidt had a bad error. Volpe, Jazz, they both had a couple of terrible throwing errors.
Yeah.
And these are playoff games. There's no better way for me to put it than these are playoff games. And the Yankees were 4 games back of Toronto not that long ago after that Tampa Bay series. Going into
the Boston series,
4 games back. If you have a good series, if you win 3 out of 4 against Boston, even with Toronto still winning, you feel good and you feel like you're on your way. But we've seen the same pattern with the Yankees now against these AL East opponents. They just cannot beat guys in their same division. And the Red Sox have had the Yankees number all year. And you got to go to Fenway later in the season, again in September. That's going to be your biggest series of the year. And I know the Yankees have basically a cakewalk to close out the year, but these are the games you need to win now. So if you do lose in the cakewalk, because it happens, you can say, at least we got these tough guys out of the way. And that's been what the Yankees have been doing. Tough series, they've been losing. They've been losing them bad. But you have a Rays team now that is basically just in it for the fun until the end of the year. And I know the Rays play the Yankees well, but, the Yankees, that you got to beat up on these teams this time of the year. You got to beat up on the Nationals this time of the year. I said the same thing about the Mets. You got to beat up on the Nationals and Braves. And unless you go out and sweep the Phillies this series, I think splitting 3-3 with Atlanta and Washington was terrible. And that's what's going to keep you out of the playoffs. And the same thing with the Yankees. You can go out there and beat Washington and beat Tampa Bay. But Boston is that series that matters. That's what you have circled on your calendar. That's what's going to determine where you are in the standings, who you play in the wild card. You can't lose 3 out of 4. And if you do, be competitive. Don't lose 12-1. Don't lose 1-0. Don't make an error after error after error, because that's what the Yankees have done all season long. And in a series where all eyes are on you, it's the rivalry. This is the first time again in a couple of years where it means something. They're in the same spot. And you totally rolled over and you died. And that is what's so frustrating about the Yankees, Jeremy. Not just that, but because you know what they can be. If they fire on all cylinders, they'll be deadly. But the errors keep them back. And you said it again, where this all ties into homer or bust. And when they don't home run, they don't win.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not winning baseball. I mean, they are a great Instagram reel, Twitter highlight team. That's what the Yankees are, in my opinion. And this is the first year in, honestly, like my 21 years life where I can honestly say I don't care about the Yankees this year. Like I am so not invested in this team at all. I can't sit. I have to like force myself to sit down and watch them play because when they don't homer and they don't put up, a huge number like an 8-run game, they have no chance. They're like every single ground ball that is hit to shortstop, you hold your breath and you're pretty much praying to God in that, in the 4 to 5 seconds it takes for the ball to be hit and be thrown over the first base, that the play is just going to get made. Every single double play turn, you're pretty much sitting on pins and needles. It is not an enjoyable watch. I have not been invested in this team probably since June. And it's sad to say that because you have, in my opinion, the best hitter in baseball on this team who suits up night in, night out. And you have some pretty good pitching with guys like Fried, who I know has been struggling recently, but guys like Fried and Rodon and Schlittler, who's been a really nice bright spot recently for the Yankees. But it is such unwatchable baseball where it gets to a point where I'm asking myself, you know what? Why would I watch this where I can go watch Modern Family? I would rather watch Phil Dunphy than watch the New York Yankees this year. And again, that hurts me to say. I'm not proud of that. But I cannot watch baseball where I have to pray to the man up above that my shortstop is going to make a decent throw, not even a good throw, a half decent throw to first base. Not spike it, not sail it into row 12 behind the dugout. Just hit him somewhere near his chest. Hit him in the leg. Just it is unbearable to watch. And like you said, they cannot win the games that matter. They don't have competitive losses. The wins they have, yeah, they're either blowouts or one or two run wins. They don't have competitive losses. When they lose, they get blown out. They get embarrassed. Thursday night against Boston, complete embarrassment. The 12-1 loss, complete embarrassment. They don't play defense. They don't run the bases. They don't hit in situations at all. It's home run or bust. It's been that way since Boone has been there, but firing just Boone doesn't do anything.
No,
Benching
it
just
does not.
Volpe doesn't do anything. The team is in a bad spot, in my opinion. I think in order for this team to really become the New York Yankees again, they need a whole overturn in the front office. They need to completely abandon the analytics because they can't do it right. The group they have, they cannot do it right. The Rays, that they can do it. The Mets, they can do it. Look at the 2020 playoffs. The Yankees tried to out-Ray the Tampa Bay Rays. They tried to out-analytic them, and it didn't work. They've been trying to out-analytical everyone, and they can't do it. They're best when they buy people. When they look at the Yankees when we were growing up, or maybe 10, 20 years before we were born. Like they just would go out and they would spend, and they would win. They can't develop guys. Their farm system sucks. They need a complete overturn if they want to get people to care about them again.
And you know what's incredible too about the buying is that they still do it to some capacity. Giancarlo Stanton was huge. I remember that news when he first became a Yankee. Garrett Cole was probably the best pitcher you could have got at the time.
Yeah.
And look, it's not like they didn't dip their toe in the water for the Juan Soto sweepstakes. It was just that they got outbid by a richer owner. And it was, you could call it more reckless spending. That's something where you could probably defend the Yankees and not going out and buying. But there's so much still. It's not what you saw. And when it comes to developing your own guys, sure. Let's take a look at some of these guys they've tried to develop, not named Aaron Judge. Jason Dominguez has been a tough watch. Anthony Volpe has been in the spotlight ever since really the opening day of this year. If you want to go back to last year, you can. It's everywhere you look. Austin Wells, the Yankees, Kevin Bunk talks about it all the time. The Yankees had a plethora of catching prospects that they let go because they didn't need them. And Austin Wells was their guy. And that has just turned out terribly.
Yeah, they can't develop.
Up and down. They cannot develop. I mean,
Greg Bird, Estevan Florial, Jason Dominguez, Anthony Volpe. I'm trying to think of all prospects since I've been watching this team religiously. Clint Frazier. These are guys who they put all their eggs in that basket. They put all their eggs in Anthony Volpe basket. They put all their eggs in the Clint Frazier and Estevan Florial basket. And what happened? They didn't pan out. Frazier, he got mono or vertigo, whatever happened to him. Volpe just sucks. Wells can't hit water if he fell out of a boat. They can't develop guys that aren't named Aaron Judge.
Yeah, it's tough.
There needs to in order for them to be good again, there needs to be complete a complete overhaul, complete overturn in the organization. Because like at the end of the day, you can roll out whoever you want. You can go play me at shortstop, play Joe Meyer at second, and put Peter at first. It's not going to matter when you have morons upstairs and you have a moron in the dugout. None of it's going to matter because you will never be competitive with morons running the show.
And again, look, love Jose Caballero. I love the trade, and I love him at shortstop. He's a very sound defender. But, Jeremy, this might be a situation like last year when the Yankees in the World Series, you had two guys in that starting lineup that aren't employed this year. The Yankees are going to go into the playoffs with either Anthony Volpe at shortstop, who is a question mark and a ticking time bomb at the position, or Jose Caballero, who is sound defensively, but you need other bats in the lineup to carry that weight, like Jazz Chisholm and Cody Bellinger. You can't afford for them to go quiet. Ben Rice, you can't afford for those guys to go quiet. I mean, at least Volpe, at the very least, he gave you that pop and he gave you that somewhat of a home run threat when he was up. Caballero doesn't do that for you. Yeah, and again, this is a big home run hitting team with not a lot of base runners at the time. And, you know, Caballero, if he could sting a double into the gap, that's awesome. But you have guys who need to either cash him in, or if he's hitting those singles, you need to cash guys in who are already on base. And the Yankees just don't have that because, again, like you mentioned, everything's the home run ball.
Yeah, and to be completely honest with you, I don't think Volpe should play the rest of the year. I don't think he deserves – you should send him down now. Put him to, like, AA again. Send him down. He does not deserve to play a meaningful Major League Baseball game again the rest of the season. He is one of, if not the worst qualified hitter in the league since the season started. He's played almost every day. He leads the league in errors. He flat out sucks at baseball. He's an automatic out at the plate. I think they put up a stat on the Fox broadcast on Thursday night. I forget what date it was, but it was since like June or July, since like a decent time ago, like a pretty large sample size. Volpe was batting like 117. 117. I think I could hit 117, and I haven't picked up a bat since February. It's a joke. It's a mockery of the fan base. If you are a true Yankees fan, you do not want to watch this. Like again, everyone hears the Yankees and they think of the brand. They don't think of the baseball. The Yankees are one of the biggest brands in the world. Everyone knows what that logo is. But when like you have real Yankee fans who will complain about whatever, like this isn't baseball, whatever that is on the field, like you're not going to get people who are willing to go spend money on tickets or willing to go put on Yes Network and listen to the game or listen to Susan on the radio. Like you're not going to have people who are willing to do that if this is a product you're going to continue to roll out. It is cool for TikTok edits. It is cool for Instagram posts. But in the grand scheme of 162, it is not winning baseball.
It's not. And again, it all goes back to Cashman. You had to have some sort of backup if Volpe didn't work out. And the fact that you had nobody to throw at shortstop, but I know that Oswald Peraza with the injuries and all that stuff, and it was a gruesome injury in Oswaldo Cabrera.
Yeah. Peraza sucks too.
Yeah. It sucks. I understand that. Oswald Cabrera is the one I'm thinking about, not Peraza. Peraza was terrible.
Cabrera's cool. But he's not even that great. He's just fun.
Yeah. But he would have been at least something where you could have split time at shortstop.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And got him off his feet. And look, I talked about this earlier in the year with you, Jeremy. The Mets had the opportunity to send Alvarez down. They had the opportunity to send Beatty down a handful of times. Vientos never did, but he could have been on his way, and you would have had somebody to carry the load. Angel Acuna has been down a number of times. Ronnie Mauricio, ever since coming back from his injury, he's been up. But again, he's another guy where you are able to send down because you have people who can play his position well. And until Jose Caballero came along, you had nobody to replace Anthony Volpe. And part of me does feel bad for him because he was hung out to dry for so long. He was making the errors. There were no improvements in his game. And he's still young. You could have justified sending him down for a long period of time to work on his game. But the fact that you had nobody there to take his spot, that's what makes this all so miserable and so crucial for the Yankees. And now the Volpe setbacks are real. They've been real. They've been happening. And again, we mentioned with Volpe, he gives you that home run power that Caballero won't give you in a big spot. If you need that one home run swing, he's done it before. He did it in Miami. But you just don't have that in Caballero, but you get very sound defense from him. So at this point, I do think the defense is way more important than that one home run swing is because you have so many other boppers in this lineup. But when it comes to the defense, you are thin on guys who can give you not even great defense, just reliable defense night in and night out.
Yeah. I mean, like they're gonna make the playoffs. They're gonna face an AL Central team or a non-AL East team that isn't Houston in the wild card round. They're gonna beat them. They're gonna face either Boston, Toronto, or Houston in the second round, and they're gonna get outclassed. That's how it's gonna go. It's gonna be the same, and they're gonna say, "Yeah, we really liked our guys. We think we had a good team. We really think we had a chance this year." Dude, you have guys that have no business being in the MLB. Like you have guys on this team who have absolutely no business being at the major league level. Austin Wells sucks. Anthony Volpe sucks. I don't like Ben Rice is cool, but like he's a home runner bust too. He can't catch. He came up as a catching prospect. He can't catch the ball. He can't throw the ball. It's a disaster. It's a complete and utter disaster. It's like the Jets, dude. And I've been saying since June, I cannot wait for Jets football. That's how bad this has been all year long. I have been counting down the days to the New York Jets take the field since early June. Think about that.
It's terrible. But that's been the Yankees. And back to our point that started all of this, because I just wanted to look at the scores. We talked about the Yankees needing to put up a billion runs to go out and win games. The Yankees' last win, where they scored 3 or less runs, was August 6th against the Rangers. You want to go to St. Louis on August 15th, they won 4-3. But everything else, if the Yankees don't put up, at the bare minimum, 5 or 6 runs,
they don't win.
They lose. And that is not an over-exaggeration.
No, it's numbers. That's literally concrete
reality.
Evidence. Yeah. They don't homer. They don't out extra base hit you. They lose. They have no chance. And when you're facing guys like Skubal or Crochet in the playoffs, or even Shane Bieber with Toronto now, you're facing guys like that. They're not going to just let you tee off them. Those are some of the best pitchers in the league. You have no chance. No chance.
It's a rough time.
Not going to be facing Shane Baz in the playoffs. Shane Baz sucks.
And again, but if you look at the schedule right now, the Yankees got to beat up on these teams. Nationals for 2 more, a 4-game set against the White Sox, and then you flip it over to September. That's where it gets tough because you open up with Houston, Toronto, and Detroit, and then you go to Boston. That's going to be where the Yankees finish. That's going to be what we know about the Yankees. But then after that, it's
Baltimore twice.
Yeah, it's Baltimore twice. You play.
That's a tough series. The Yankees are not good against their own division. Baltimore is going to give them trouble.
But again, this time of the year, I don't like to use that. But I said the same thing about the Mets and the Nationals and the Mets and the Braves. This time of the year, it's no more who plays you well, no more what the trend is. It's August. You know who these teams are. You need to beat up on them. And the Mets did not do it at all against Washington. They got lucky, in my opinion, in Atlanta. I'm not getting swept out of there. Same thing with the Yankees. AL East has been giving you trouble all year. Oh, well. You know who these teams are now. The Baltimore Orioles are one of the worst, if not the worst, you say, teams in the American League. You got to beat up on them. It's no ifs. It's no, they give us trouble. Our own division gives us trouble. It's no more of that. It should never be like that. But it's a 162-game season, so at least you could justify it a little bit.
Yeah, my only counter argument to that is that, yes, the Yankees know who they're playing, but the other team also knows exactly who the Yankees are.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to beat them.
Yeah, they beat themselves. They beat up on themselves, the Yankees.
Just put the ball in play. Hit the ball and put it in the infield. Hit a ground ball somewhere. You're probably standing on second base.
All right, last thing here with the Yankees, and then we'll get on to some league-wide news. Then we'll go over to the NFL. Cam Schlittler, if he continues to this dominance, he's had 3 really, really good starts now. He lengthens out this rotation so much.
Yeah.
I think Max Fried is slowly getting back to what we saw in the beginning of the year. Whether it was fatigue or the blister on his finger, he had a massive wall, but he had a really good start his last time out. Carlos Rodon, I can't help but just have confidence in the guy at this point, I feel like. I don't know. Or actually, wait, no. Or was Rodon the guy who got lit up? Did he get lit up against Boston? I got to see where Rodon did. Because I had confidence in him. I swear to God I saw something which made me pump the brakes on that. But I got to see. I might be thinking of somebody else. Let's see.
I mean,
No, Rodon. Yeah, Rodon I have the confidence in. I take that back what I said about him. He's had a really good August so far. And, Luis Heel, I think you know what you get out of him at this point. I think he could be really good for you if he's on fire on all cylinders. And Schlittler, to me, is that guy who, if you get consistent pitching out of him, I like the rotation, especially next year when you get Cole back. I like the rotation.
Yeah, no, he's been a good surprise. He's been really, really good. He's been great this month, too. His numbers in August are very, very impressive. It's just hard to really, care about this team. I think Schiller's a really, really good young talent, and he's been really good pitching for the Yankees. And he had a no-hit bid on what was it, Wednesday of last week against Tampa. He was like, no, I think they had no hits through 6, and that game ended up going to extra innings because the Yankees bullpen blew it. But yeah, Schiller's been a very, very impressive piece for the Yankees, and if he's the 5th guy in the rotation heading to next year, that is a big question mark for Clark Schmidt. Like, what do you do with him? But that's a good problem to have, in my opinion. You can never have too much pitching.
Yes, no, you just can't. And again, if you're looking at a rotation next year, Cole, Fried, Rodon, Schlittler, Heel, and even Clark Schmidt, again, you got an odd man out. You got a 6-man rotation. You can do what you want, but those are 6 names that I just read out to you that I have utmost confidence in the next year.
That's a good staff. It's a very good rotation.
It is. Okay, here we go. League-wide news. Well, start with Cal Raleigh because this ties into the Yankees. Cal Raleigh hits number 50 the other night against San Diego, or last night, I should say, not the other night, against San Diego. Where does he stand in the home run in the MVP race? Because in my opinion, I just don't know how you don't give it to Aaron Judge again. He's by far the best hitter, in the very least, in the MLB, even with him not playing the field. But I do understand the Cal Raleigh argument. So I don't know. I don't know where I stand on it. I would lean Judge heavily, but I am not tone deaf to listening to Cal Raleigh arguments. I understand them.
I'm looking up the MVP odds right now. You can't bet that in New York with whatever reason. I'm trying to find the odds, but I think it's tough to not say Aaron Judge again. What I'm seeing right now, this was as of yesterday, Judge was minus 195 to win MVP.
Yeah.
That was before Raleigh homered again. I think the Judge argument is somewhat similar to the Lindor argument of last year. Like, if the Yankees don't have Aaron Judge, they are abysmal. But obviously the league went the opposite way with Lindor last year. But Judge is still batting, 330 plus. His OPS, I believe, is still better than Raleigh's. Raleigh beats him in RBI and he beats him in homers. And I think the whole thing is what do the voters value more? In my opinion, I think homers are cool. You know what I mean? He's breaking catcher records. I think that has some significance to it. But I also think Aaron Judge is the best hitter in baseball. And I would personally be surprised if Judge doesn't win it. It may be voter fatigue. It may be recency bias with Raleigh if he does win it. But Judge still has 40 plus homers. It's not like Raleigh, has double the amount of him. Judge is still, he's a 45, 50. He's going to hit around 50, 55 homers this year. He's going to end up near where Raleigh does. I think it goes to Judge again, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it go to Raleigh because of how impressive his season has been for a catcher.
And my whole thing with Cal Raleigh, this is the scenario I see Cal Raleigh win MVP. He's got to hit 60 plus home runs. Yeah. Or at the if he breaks Judge's AL record, then I don't see how you don't give it to him. But even still, he doesn't have an OPS at 1,000 right now. He can 1 dot, fine. Say he's got 1,000 OPS. Judge still has over 1,100. It's not even like a OPS over 1,000 would be sniffing Aaron Judge. You still got a way to go, pal.
Yeah.
I understand switch hitting catcher. We've never seen a catcher do it like this before. He's playing the most out of any other catchers in the MLB, maybe besides JT Realmuto. He's in every day at defense, and that's where it feels like the Lindor argument again. He's there every day at defense. Looking back on it last year, the Lindor MVP case did make sense, but you can't not give it to a guy who had the 50-50 season. And it's the same thing, I feel like, with Raleigh and Judge. Plays defense every day, switch hitting catcher. He's doing it at the position we haven't seen have this success in probably the last over a decade or so. But I don't see how you don't give it to the guy who leads the MLB in OPS plus, hitting. It's just a lot to have to overcome. I just don't see a world unless Cal Raleigh gets somewhat close to that OPS and he hits 60-plus home runs where you don't give it to Judge. And again, I think the only thing, you said it, voter fatigue. That's the only reason I could see Judge not winning.
And like, even if Raleigh hits 60-plus, Judge is going to hit 55-plus. Like, it's not like he's going to have that many more substantial home runs than Aaron Judge. And I do think, like, a switch hitting catcher who plays defense every day, who is, hitting 50, 60 home runs, it's very, very impressive. Breaking catcher records, all season long. But, like, on the other side of the coin, like, you have arguably the best hitter in the game who has a massive lead in the OPS category, who hasn't beat big time in the batting average category, which, again, I don't know how much the voters care about batting average. If I'm voting on it, I think batting average is still one of, if not the most important stat for a hitter. But I know times have changed and things are very different now with how stats and numbers are looked at with that. I do think he has a chance. I think Judge has like a 65 to 70% chance of winning, at least as of right now. But again, like, if Raleigh breaks the home run record or hits 60-plus, like, those numbers definitely sway into his favor big time.
Yeah, I think so as well. But again, him hitting 60-plus it's a long shot. Look, he's got a little over a month, about a month now. It's a long shot. I got it 10 more in the month of September, basically. I just don't know if he can do it. All right. Dodgers, complete win over the Reds last night. Love watching that as a Mets fan. But more importantly for the Dodgers, that felt like a Dodger-type win, something they haven't had in a very long time. They did not have a good series against San Diego whatsoever. So this was a much-needed win for them. They're back in first place in the NL West after they took the last game against the Padres, and the Padres dropped the first one against the Mariners. Where do you stand on them? Because the Dodgers, in the back of my mind, always a threat for the World Series, but I've been campaigning this all summer again. This is just not a Dodgers team that I feel can go toe-to-toe with the Padres or even the Brewers right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're the reigning champion, so they're still the team to beat, in my opinion. And regardless, like, they're still the Dodgers. They're going to get hot going into the playoffs, and they're going to be a threat once the playoffs roll around. Do I think they're necessarily the same level threat they were last year or have been in years past? No. I don't think they're necessarily as good as they were last year, but they're still the Dodgers. Like, and you could throw around the name as much as you want. Like, this is still an organization who knows what it takes to win. And any team with Ohtani, Freeman, and Betts, like, that's still a scary trio, regardless of how bad Betts has been in the regular season. He's a great playoff performer. He's got 2 or 3 rings. Like, he knows what it takes to win. And, 3 and 5 game series, like, that's exactly what this team is built on doing. Like, they know how to beat you when it matters the most. They know how to pitch. They know how to play defense. So regardless if they win the division or if they're a wild card team, they're still a threat come playoff time. Like, I would much rather play, the Brewers or the Phillies in the playoffs than play the Dodgers.
I don't know. I feel like Phillies, yes. I'd rather play the Phillies than play the Dodgers, but I know that I'm probably the biggest hater of a Brewers playoff run, but they just feel more complete than the Dodgers right now. I made a video about it the other day. They've only had one starting pitcher get over 100 innings. That's still a Dodger, and Yamamoto. Dustin May was the other one, but he was traded. And Shohei Ohtani, the MLB rehab, because you can't send him down with his bat and with the pitching, has not gone off to a good start. I don't like the idea of having him rehab in the major league level, but what else are you going to do? And, he's got to be a big part in this rotation. Rotation's banged up. Blake Snell's back. He's looked really good, but again, another injury-prone guy. It's a banged-up team. It always is.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they won last year, if you remember, Jeremy, with the bullpen games, because they had nobody. They outclassed the Padres in a bullpen game. They outclassed the Mets in a bullpen game, which were basically must-wins.
Yeah.
Game 5 was a must-win, but against the Mets, you had a chance to, lose that game, but you came out and you won it anyways. That's the type of Dodgers team that they've been, but I just don't know if it's the same this year. It doesn't feel the same because, again, like you said, Mookie Betts isn't hitting, and if he was gonna hit it, he would have came around sometime over the summer, and he hasn't. It's just an off year for the guy. Tommy Edman, the Cinderella story with him has run out. You have guys like Michael Conforto, who's been one of the worst hitters in the MLB this year. You got to stick him in the outfield every so often. I just don't know if this is a Dodgers team that can compete with the strength of the Padres, who are much better than last year, the strength of the Brewers, who are much better than last year. The Mets and Phillies, I mean, the Phillies have been red hot, but I think you can argue they've taken a step back. The Mets have definitely taken a step back, but it's just so much of the same Dodgers, maybe a little worse, but a much, much, much top-heavy, stronger National League than last season. And that's what scares me the most.
Yeah, National League is definitely, I think they're much stronger than what they were last year. But the National League was still really good last year, too.
Yeah.
And the Dodgers didn't have an easy path to the World Series until they got there and had to play the New York Yankees. But until someone knocks them off, they're still the top dog. And I don't think they're going to make the World Series. I don't think they're going to win it this year. I think that's San Diego. I think San Diego is the best team in the MLB. I think they're the most complete team. And I mean, we saw it the past couple, the Dodgers beat up on them last week, and then this past weekend, the Padres won the series. They kind of stood their ground, showed them who they were. The Dodgers are still a threat. Don't get me wrong. Especially come playoff time. If they're a wild card team, watch out, because in a 3-game series, you got to face that lineup, and you got to go against what I would assume is Snell and Ohtani. Game 1, game 2, or Yamamoto and Snell, and you have Ohtani in the back burner if you want to throw him out of the bullpen. If you decide to, you probably don't even need to with how good that team really is. I don't think they're necessarily the same threat they were last year. I don't think they're as good as they were last year, but until they get knocked off, they're still top dog.
Yeah, it's crazy to me that the fact that either the Padres or Dodgers are going to have to play a wild card series is nuts. And you could have said the same thing about the NL Central earlier in the year, but the Cubs have really fallen off, even though they've been hot as of late. The fact that you say the Brewers or Cubs would have to play in a wild card is ridiculous. But
yeah,
and you could have said the same thing about the Mets and the Phillies earlier in the year, but now the Mets have definitely shown you that is a wild card team. If they're going to do anything, they're going to have to go on some crazy run again. Okay, we will get to some NFL news. I'm going to ask you, Jeremy. What is a bigger signing or more impactful for the team? The Bengals re-signing Trey Hendrickson for 1 season for $30 million, which is nuts, or Terry McLaurin, another, you can argue, overpay, 3 years, $96 million. Who's going to help their team more?
I mean, I think just surface level, I go Hendrickson just because how bad the Bengals defense really is. You don't have him, and that D-line takes a huge hit. I mean, that defense is 10 times worse than it was last year. McLaurin's huge, don't get me wrong. That's a really big signing for the Commanders and a young quarterback in Jaden Daniels. And McLaurin was his guy. McLaurin had a great year last year. But I just think in terms of importance to the roster and importance to how crucial that position really is, the Bengals need Trey Hendrickson. He led the league in sacks last year. He deserves every penny he made. And yes, it's a lot of money. I do think it's an overpay, but in order to keep that guy around, you had to do that. And for the Bengals to be competitive and to go on another playoff run this year, they need Trey Hendrickson on that team.
Right now, sorry, you finished.
No, I mean, I think with or without McLaurin, the Commanders are going to take a step back. I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year. They had, think of the game against the Bears last year. They won on the tipped Hail Mary to De'Ami Brown. They had a lot of wins last year. You can go back and you could really say, well, if this went differently, they could have lost that game. And I'm not saying, they're not a good team or anything like that, but I do think they're going to take a step back. So if they did lose McLaurin or if they did trade McLaurin, I don't think that would be nearly as impactful as losing Trey Hendrickson would have been for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, I don't love the whole defensive scheme of the Commanders this year. I definitely think they'll still be competitive because when you have Jaden Daniels, how could you not be? And Terry McLaurin had a career season last year. I don't think that's going to be a crazy step back, but I think, the offense will definitely take a hit. The running game is not good. The defense is not great. And, I mean, they let up a lot of points. It's going to be a big, big setback for them. They might miss the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if they did. And the Bengals, they are notorious for having one of the worst defenses in the league, one of the worst secondaries at least. And if you lose Trey Hendrickson, that's a guy who has the ability to steal you a couple of games during the season, and not a lot of guys can do that. And if you didn't have him, then there's another conversation. Bengals missed the playoffs because they could be like the Commanders, put up all these points.
Yeah.
But they're going to open the doors and give up all those points right back. And Hendrickson is a big, big part of that. He's $30 million this year. He's a 1-year contract. He ties for 8th if you're looking annually with Derek Stingley Jr. at $30 million. Sauce is a higher paid than him. Chris Jones higher paid. Nick Bosa, TJ Watt. You know, there's guys, Danielle Hunter, Myles Garrett, Crosby. All of these guys ahead of Trey Hendrickson, in my opinion, are better. Maybe, I mean, I hate to say it, cover your ears, Jeremy. Maybe not Sauce Gardner in terms of impact. I know he's in your eyes, the best corner in the league. But all these guys ahead of him are in like that same range of where you'd want to get paid. And I think Trey Hendrickson is right under them. I think $30 million is a really good spot for him. But with a 1-year contract, if the Bengals have to pay that and not get him back,
yeah,
that's an issue.
It feels like a rental in a way. Yeah, it really does.
He's your own guy. He's a rental. He's your own guy. And look, he's always had a tough contract negotiations with the Bengals. They do this all the time. T. Higgins was tough. Jamar Chase was tough. Trey Hendrickson is now the latest in that, a tough just contract to get down. They had their a second-round draft pick or the first-round draft pick almost go back to college because they couldn't figure out a contract.
They just suck at like being a man. They suck at managing. They suck at front office. Yeah. They're just not good at it.
Yeah, that's a very tough thing. But I agree with you. I think the Trey Hendrickson signing is better. Okay, here we go, Jeremy. You ready for this? Check this out.
I like this. I saw this on the rundown. I was very excited for this.
We're going to hide this and then wait for it. Boom. Progress versus regress. Okay, so basically for everybody watching, the scheme of it is I'm going to give Jeremy 3 names out of position: quarterback, wide receiver, running back. And he's got to tell me if they're going to have a better season, worse season, or same season as last year. First name on that list is Brock Purdy.
Well, I'm not a huge Brock Purdy guy. I do think he's talented, but I don't I don't get all the hype around his name. I think he's more of a game manager than anything. But with that being said, they have the easiest schedule in the league this year, and his head coach is Kyle Shanahan. When you have that guy, in your headset, you're going to be fine. I think he's going to have a better year than he had last year. I think the whole thing with Debo last year really was like a big negative rain cloud for the whole team last year. And Ayuk, I know he's hurt, but he's going to be back. Same thing with him. So I think Purdy's going to have a better year than last year. And I think the Niners are going to win that division. I really think the Niners are going to have a good year, and Purdy's going to be, right at the forefront of it.
Look, I'm the biggest Brock Purdy believer, I think, in the world. I really do love Purdy. I think he has the stuff, and under Shanahan's system is really good. And yeah, a lot went wrong. Debo was a total diva situation. Ayuk, the same thing. He had a lot of drops too before he got injured. CMC obviously out for the year. And I hate defending a quarterback and believing a quarterback so much who needs to have the weapons around him to be good. But look, he's not a quarterback who elevates the guys around him. It's just a fact of the matter. Not a lot of quarterbacks are. I'm sick of talking about Brock Purdy like that, like it's some crime to not lift these guys around you. Only so many quarterbacks do it. The elite of the elite could do it, and that's it. And Brock Purdy is not in that conversation. That being said, he is a guy who can extend the plays very well. He uses his legs very well. Ricky Pearsall, I think, is going to have a really good year. Juwan Jennings, when he's back and healthy, I think he's going to have a good season. I like Brock Purdy, and I like what he's going to do with this team. I agree with you. I think he's going to have a better season. Okay, next up is Jared Goff.
Well, Goff, I think it's a tough spot because I think the Lions as a whole are going to take a step back. I mean, just as a team, like you lose both your offensive and defensive coordinators. And for Goff, especially, he came over and Ben Johnson, I believe, was there from the beginning. So he has to learn a whole new system. Granted, he's a veteran. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong.
Been to 2 Super Bowls. Oh, no, just 1 Super Bowl. Take that back.
Yeah, he lost. I mean, I think Goff is good. I don't think he's necessarily great. I think he's going to regress. I think he's going to take a step back this year. I just think the whole Lions team, like Dan Campbell is a great coach. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know how much Dan Campbell is like necessarily like a football teacher. I feel like he's a guy who gets in the locker room, throws garbage cans and throws chairs around, and just get these guys mentally ready to go. And then you had Johnson and Glenn to kind of reel everyone in and figure out what the plan was for the day. But I think losing Ben Johnson is going to take a big hit on Jared Goff and the Lions offense as a whole. I think they're going to take a step back and regress this year.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think the big thing is what that offensive coordinator can do for Jared Goff and the Lions. It's not that Jared Goff is this game-changing quarterback. He's a game manager, and that's what it is. He's
He's
not a
another, like you said, he's not a like Purdy. He's not a guy who's going to elevate the guys around him.
yeah.
Neither is Goff. He's the same type of thing.
But he can't take over. The big difference with me with Brock Purdy and Jared Goff, I think Brock Purdy can take over a game. I don't think Jared Goff can at all.
I would agree with that. I don't think Goff is a guy like he can't move in the pocket. Like he doesn't have the legs. If he doesn't beat with his arm, he's got no chance to beat you. If you can shut down, the second level and you can shut down the outside with the receivers, like Goff he's a one-trick pony in my opinion.
Yeah, totally. And okay, last quarterback before we move on to wide receivers, Bo Nix.
Nix is a tough one because any quarterback in the Sean Payton system, I think, is going to succeed. But I think Nix, out of all the quarterbacks in that class last year, I think he's the most overrated. I mean, we saw him in the playoff game against Buffalo. Like, I don't think he has what it takes to win that big game. I don't love the Broncos. I think the offense is okay. I think that he's another conversation where the defense really helps him out. And Fields, like we were talking about earlier, Fields and the Steelers last year. Now, granted, I think Bo Nix is better than Justin Fields. I'm not comparing those guys. But what I'm saying is, like, Bo Nix can play a lackluster or he can underperform in a game, and they could still come out on top because how good that defense is. I think Nix is definitely overrated, and I don't think he's going to be as good as he was last year.
I don't know. This is definitely, I think, the toughest out of all the quarterbacks in the league going into this season.
Mm-hmm.
Because you look at his numbers last year, they were good, but 12 interceptions, you want to get that down. And when you talk about sophomore slumps, they happen typically, obviously, to the quarterbacks who did come out and have a good first year, and Bo Nix definitely did. And he showed some flashes at times on why it wasn't great, but he showed some flashes on, again, a guy who can take over a game. He's older than a lot of the other rookies. That definitely plays to his advantage. He's got more of that experience.
He's near 30 years old.
Yeah. But with Sean Payton, if it is a regression, I think it's going to be the slightest. If it's progression, again, it's going to be of the slightest. But if I had to put my eggs in one basket, I think Bo Nix would probably take a step forward. I like him with Sean Payton. I don't know, but a small, tiny baby step forward.
I think out of those three guys, he's the most likely to stay pretty much the same.
Yeah, that's fair. Because I think guys like Jaden Daniels, I mean, I know the sophomore slump, I just can't see him hitting a massive wall. I
don't think Daniels will. I think that team will. I don't think they're that good. Like, the defense sucks.
Yeah. It's not a good defense. All right. To the wide receivers now. Stephon Diggs, first year in New England.
Diggs is an interesting case because, like, he was having a really good year last year until he got hurt. And now he's old. He's an older guy. I totally understand the question marks around Stephon Diggs. I have always been a big Stephon Diggs guy, and that really hurts to say because he was a Bill and now he's a Patriot. So it's tough to honestly say I think he's going to have a good year and not want to, rip my hair out. But I think Diggs is going to be really good with Drake May. He's a receiver who, like, look what he did for Josh Allen. You know what I mean? I think he's not necessarily going to do the same thing for Drake May, but it's going to be similar to the point where, like, Drake May has a true number one target and is able to just get Diggs the ball at any means necessary. I think Diggs is going to have a very good year in New England. And I think that team is, like, they're a sneaky wildcard team, in my opinion, this year. I think Diggs is going to take a huge step forward for not only himself, but for the Patriots as well.
I think he's going to get right back to a 1,000-yard season. And who else are they going to be throwing the ball to in New England? I feel this is
Jalen Polk,
he's out for the season. He had the shoulder surgery. It's really just
Diggs. DeMario Douglas.
And again, Drake May, another guy who I just can't see having take a step back. And, now he has a true wide receiver one. Trevion Henderson is going to be huge for the run game if they keep him going. You run to open the pass, and if the Patriots can do that nicely, they have a really good defense. I think that Stephon Diggs can have one of those Bills-esque type seasons. I think he get over 1,000 yards. I totally agree with you. I think he's going to have a much better season. And even really, Stephon Diggs is a little unfair because of the injury, but I want to get them in there because I don't think he was ever going to be that wide receiver one. I think he was still, behind a Tank Dell, behind a Nico Collins before, obviously, he got injured, Davis. But I think that's an interesting conversation. Here we go. This is going to be interesting. Mike Evans.
I'm a huge Mike Evans guy. And I know, questions about him getting up there with age and everything. It's still Mike Evans. Like, he is one of, in my opinion, the best receivers in the NFL. He's a top 20, top 15 receiver in the NFL still. And I think Baker Mayfield continues to get better every year. And I think they have a really good relationship with each other, both on and off the field.
Mhm.
I think Evans is going to have another good year. I think he's going to take a step forward. I'm pretty sure he got that 1K mark last year. I think he's going to get it again this year. And this Buccaneers team, like, they're really sound offensively. And you have, Mike Evans on one side. You're going to have Godwin when he comes back, and you're going to have Egbuka in the slot.
Yeah.
Like this team is, and you have Kate Otten at tight end. Like, this is a good offense. Evans is at the forefront of it, and I think he's going to take a step forward. I know he's old. I don't know. He's in his mid-30s, I would assume. I don't know the exact number, but I think Evans is going to have another good year. He's going to take a step forward.
Yeah, I think totally. I mean, if not a step forward, he's got to stay totally the same. He's Mr.
Yeah.
Consistency. It was 11 straight years with 1,000-yard seasons now.
I think
So if the step back for him isn't having a 1,000-yard receiving season, and it's like 950 or something, if that's your step back,
yeah,
okay.
But
I agree with you. I think every year we hear about this. Mike Evans, the old injury prone, got the hip problems, going to take a step back, and I'm waiting on it. I don't think he's going to really progress. I think he's going to stay the same. I like Mike Evans right where he is. I feel like he's been like that for the last 5 years or so now. I like where he is. Okay, last wide receiver, Tyreek Hill.
I absolutely hate Tyreek Hill. I wasn't impressed with him at all last year. And I don't think he's going to have that great of a year this year either. I mean, I don't remember the exact quote. I don't remember when it was said, but he said something along the lines of like wanting to get out of Miami. I don't think he's fully bought in. I think he's taking a step back. I don't love Tua either. Tyreek's, he's still insanely quick, but he's getting up there in age. I guess it's the same argument as Mike Evans, like he's getting older. But I don't think Tyreek Hill is necessarily as mentally bought in as Mike Evans is. And I don't think Hill necessarily wants to be in Miami anymore. And I still am sour of him choosing the Dolphins over the Jets a couple of years ago. So he's regressing just because I don't think he cares as much as he used to.
I never understood him leaving Kansas City in the first place. Whatever. You have your Super Bowl, warmer weather, you're going to get paid more, be the guy. But it does come a time. I know that everything's about the money now, but to me, so much of it is about legacy. And it's not like he wouldn't have been paid in Kansas City.
Yeah.
It's just, man, you left what could have been a dynasty. And if the Chiefs win again this year, it's dynasty-like team. If they won last year, they definitely would have been a dynasty. But it's just, you left what is the best structure in the NFL. And I don't know how you could have bought into the Dolphins. I love Mike McDaniels. Don't get me wrong, young head coach. Tua, nobody was ever high on him. He's never been that guy who you could say can go out and win you a Super Bowl, and he's never going to be. Now with the injuries, God forbid, he's never going to get to that. I just don't understand the whole Dolphins mindset besides warmer weather and higher pay. And I know it's two really big things, but I don't know.
No state tax.
No state tax. It's a big one. All right. Running backs. This is probably the most fun group to talk about. First one, Saquon Barkley.
Well, the thing with Saquon, he had such a high workload last year, and he's a guy, like, he is insanely injury prone. And the Eagles are still one of, if not the best team in the NFL, but I just don't see him getting the same workload and same production that he had last year. It's too much on a guy's body. He's obviously, he's had a couple of huge injuries in his career. I think Saquon is going to take a step back, not because like a talent drop off, but just from a workload drop off. I don't think he's going to have nearly as many carries or as much touches as he had last year. And that's only because I think the Eagles understand that he's a guy who with back-to-back years with a workload that large, it's not going to be good for him in the long run. Like, they're obviously going to go deep in the playoffs. They may go back-to-back and win another Super Bowl. I think Saquon in the regular season is going to regress numbers-wise just because he's not going to get the same amount of work that he had last year.
Yeah, and last year was the most in his career, 378. Yeah. His last highest was his rookie season in 2022, and his rookie season with 352. That's the year the Giants made the playoffs in 22. He's such a big part of the passing game, and he's such a big part of the running game. But we've seen historically running backs who have that many touches, they either get injured the next year, they don't have as good of years. Mm-hmm. But say he doesn't, right? And say he doesn't get injured, he doesn't have those touches. He has a Mike Evans situation. If his regression is not on pace to break the rushing record in a single season, so be it. He's still going to be. If Saquon Barkley stays healthy, he's the best running back in the league, and it's not even close.
Yeah, 100%. Behind that offensive line, like I'm not saying like he's not going to be good. I just don't think he's going to have the opportunities to do what he did last year, because if he does, he's going to get hurt.
Yeah, he shouldn't have those same opportunities.
No,
If you
he
want to
should have
win,
a
yeah,
significant less workload.
yes, I totally agree with you. And they have the guys to do it. Okay. Next up, this is like a Mike Evans type conversation. Derrick Henry.
I love him in that Ravens offense. I absolutely love Derrick Henry and what he brings because, like, it feels kind of like, I know we're going to talk about him next, but it feels like a Gibbs and Montgomery situation with Henry and Lamar because, like, you have Henry who is supposed to just be a power back, but Henry can still, he can still move really, really well. And when you pair that with Lamar Jackson, like, I don't see how either of those guys could not take a step forward. I think his first year in Baltimore was great. I think his second year is going to be even better. That may be a little biased because I drafted him in fantasy this year. But I really think Derrick Henry is going to take another step forward. I think he's going to be in the conversation to lead the league in rushing touchdowns. I think he's going to be in the conversation to lead the league in rushing yards. As long as he stays healthy, Derrick Henry is like another old reliable type of guy. He's always a top 5, top 3 running back in the NFL. I'm taking him to have another great year and take a step forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. The biggest thing in that Ravens offense is they keep him safe. It's not an over workload on him. He's big with the touchdowns. He's touchdown reliant, which isn't a bad thing. And he's a guy who is just so versatile for you. And again, if you're not using him in the run game, you can use him with the screen passes, and he can pick up so much steam. He's a strong downhill runner. He's a decoy. And again, it's literally like pairing him with another running back with Lamar Jackson. I don't mean that as an insult to Lamar Jackson at all. You just have that threat that you never had before, and that really showed last year. And we thought he was going to take a step back last year, and I can't fall for it again because I thought that too. I thought they were going to have a big step back last year. Until I see Derrick Henry take a massive step back with an injury or something like that, again, knock on wood, we hate to see them. I just can't see a world where Derrick Henry takes a step back. I could see him having the same season as last year.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Like, until I see it, I'm not going to bet against him. I'm not going to say he's going to have a bad year. I'm not going to he's going to take a step back until he does it. Like, he's like, Mike Evans or Saquon Barkley or Stephon Diggs. Like, until they show me they're going to regress, I'm not going to bank on them doing that.
All right, last one here for the Lions. Just talked about him, Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, and he's tough too because he's so young. He's so quick. I think he's going to progress. I think he's going to have a better year than he had last year, but I think it's going to be different because of the new coordinator. Like, it's a tough player to predict because there's so much uncertainty with who's calling plays and everything like that. Because to be honest, I don't even know who the coordinator is this year. I have no idea who's calling the plays offensively for the Detroit Lions. I think Gibbs is still a sick running back. I think he's he's right at the top of that second tier of running backs in the NFL. He's kind of towing the line of becoming a true RB1 in the league, and he's towing the line of getting into that first tier of running backs. I think he's going to progress this season. I just think it's going to be a different Jahmyr Gibbs than it was a year ago because of a new offensive coordinator.
Well, the split is definitely going to be gone. With the David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs split, this definitely has to be Gibbs' offense now to run, and I think it will be. And you look at his stats from last year, he was so heavily involved in the passing game. He averaged almost a first down per reception last year, which is really insane. Nuts to talk about. He had 517 receiving yards. That's not including his 1,400 rushing yards. He's just so versatile. And the touchdowns came at 20 touchdowns last year. And if you're going to sit here and tell me that a new coordinator is going to take that away, you're going to have to fire that guy right away. Yeah. If anything, without the split of David Montgomery, that's his workload. I mean, obviously Montgomery's going to be there and he'll be in those red zone touches. He'll be a third down guy, I'm sure. But I just can't see a world where Jahmyr Gibbs doesn't have the potential to be the best running back in the league this year. I don't think it will be as long as Saquon's healthy. McCaffrey's always interesting, even though his injuries have really piled up as of late. But he's definitely in the conversation. Definitely.
Yeah, he's so young. Like, he's just going to get better and better every year.
All right, that is everybody. So that is going to do it from the No Good Takes podcast. Jeremy Horowitz, Giuseppe Oliveri saying thank you so much for watching. We'll get out our shout-outs before we get out of here. Here we go. Bunk has the bunker. Mike has mic'd up. Together they make up the Burrows. Mike and JM do the Hardline Sports Talk. Gabe just had Keith McPherson on the playbook, so always go check out his stuff. McPherson, a great shout to always have from WFAN. And BTO Betting, we just started it. Go follow. I think
I got to get on that.
Followers. Oh, yeah.
They got to get me on that.
Go check out our parlays and everything like that. Got them going. I don't bet. Jeremy does. He'll have good stuff. And whatever
Okay.
you guys do, don't take whatever Merlot gives you. Fade Mike. That is free money. Just do the opposite of him. All right, but that is going to do it. Thank you guys all so much for watching. We'll catch you all on Thursday.